What's up, NASCAR fans? I have some exciting news for you guys. If any of you have watched my latest entry list video on Wednesday, you'll notice that NASCAR has officially revealed their schedules for the 2026 season. And that's why, in this video, I'm going to be going over all of them one by one. And this includes every single national series. Yep, all three. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the Cup Series just like we always do. Right now! Alright guys, so first of all, the Cookout Clash will indeed return to Bowman Gray Stadium after a successful first edition earlier this year. And that race, of course, will not move. As for Daytona 500 qualifying, that does not move either. And neither do the duels or the first 5 races of the season, including the Great American Race itself, actually. However, Darlington does. To its March date, apparently. Martinsville and Bristol do not move, except Bristol will now become the 8th race of the season. Kansas gets its April date back, which is a rather surprising outcome, to say the least. Talladega and Texas, of course, do not move, but Watkins Glen does. To its May date. Wow, I didn't see that coming, did I? And it will be held, as always, on Mother's Day. Good news for the All-Star race, it is not changing dates. I like that. Bad news, however, it's changing locations and moving to Dover Motor Speedway. Oh boy. Even better news, this race will be held during the daytime. Pretty cool, huh? And I sure hope the guy who wins $1 million gets to tame Miles the Monster, alright? Anyways, the Coca-Cola 600, Nashville, and Michigan all do not move, except Nashville now has its May date. Pocono does in fact move back a week, and now for something that'll blow you away. Here we go. You know, I've been waiting forever to say this. But grab your surfboards, everybody, because for the first time since 2023, NASCAR is coming back to Southern California. Haha, Cowabunga, dudes. Whoa. What? You think we're on a beach, for crying out loud? You silly fool. We're supposed to be on a military base, gosh darn it. According to their website, NASCAR made a very special announcement about coming to San Diego last month. And guess what, folks? That's exactly what they're doing. The Cup Series will be competing at Naval Base Coronado on Father's Day weekend. And not only will this be the second street race in NASCAR history, it's also going to be the first ever NASCAR race on a military base. How cool is that? Even better news, it's also going to be the final race before the in-season challenge. Speaking of the in-season challenge, NASCAR will stay in California as Sonoma gets its June date back and will now become the first race of this tournament. It has been exactly 7 years since NASCAR came to this track, but now, after quite some time, it's back. Chicagoland Speedway will return to the schedule once and for all. It will become the second race of this tournament, and it will be held on 4th of July weekend, the same weekend as Monster Jam World Finals 25 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Echo Park Speedway gets its July date back and will now become the third race of the tournament. It has been 3 whole decades since this iconic racetrack last hosted a points race, but guess what, folks? It's finally happening. For the first time since 1996, North Wilkesboro Speedway will have a points race. This race, called the Window World 400, will become the second to last race of the tournament. And of course, the Brickyard 400 does not move, but it will remain the final race. I said it before, and I'll say it again. The winner of the in-season challenge gets to take home $1 million. Let's keep going, shall we? Iowa moves up a week. Richmond does not move. New Hampshire surprisingly does. to its August date, and it will now become the second to last race of the regular season. Daytona moves up a week, but as always, it will remain the regular season finale. The Southern 500 gets its September date back and will once again become the first race of the playoffs. Gateway and Bristol move up a week, with Bristol, of course, closing out round 1. For the first time since 2024, Kansas will now become the first race of round 2. Las Vegas moves back a week, and it will now become the second race of that round. And rounding it out, like so, is the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, which, as promised, will move up a week. Phoenix Raceway has been hosting the championship race for many years now, but now it moves to its October date and becomes the first race of round 3. Talladega moves up a week and will once again become the second race of that round. Martinsville gets its November date back again, and as always, it will close out that round. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. The grand finale. The icing on the cake, the cherry on top, the biggest headline of the season, the championship race is coming home. It has been exactly 7 years since Homestead Miami Speedway last hosted the Cup Series Championship, but now the wait is finally over. This track has been the site of the championship for almost 2 decades, and I just can't believe it's right back where it belongs. Oh my god. One more thing I would like to point out here. Only 2 off weeks are on the schedule. Which Cup Series race are you most excited for next season? Tell me in the comments down below. Alright, now let's get to NASCAR's secondary series. That's right, folks, it's not the Xfinity Series anymore. It is now the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. You guys might remember that announcement because it was just made on Monday. Now let's get to that darn schedule already. Good grief. As always, the first 5 races of the season do not move, except Circuit of the Americas now has its February date for some reason. Darlington moves to its March date, like I was saying earlier. Martinsville does not move. Rockingham moves back 2 weeks. Bristol does not move. Kansas gets its April date back. Talladega and Texas do not move either, but Watkins Glen does to its May date. Apparently enough, Dover gets its May date back. Charlotte and Nashville do not move. Pocono moves back a week. The O'Reilly Series joins the Cup Series at Naval Base Coronado on Father's Day weekend. Also, Sonoma gets its June date back. Chicagoland Speedway returns to the O'Reilly Series schedule for the first time in 7 years. Echo Park Speedway gets its July date back. Indianapolis does not move. Iowa and Daytona both move up a week. Darlington gets its second O'Reilly Series race back, surprisingly. Gateway moves up a week, but it will once again become the regular season finale. The playoffs will once again start at Bristol, which also moves up a week. Las Vegas moves back a week, and it will now become the second race of round 1. And closing out this round, as always, the Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval, which also moves up a week. Phoenix Raceway moves to its October date and will now become the first race of round 2. Talladega and Martinsville both move up a week, with Martinsville, as usual, closing out that round. And finally, for the first time in 7 years, the O'Reilly Series Championship race will take place at Homestead Miami Speedway. As if that wasn't enough, there are 6 off weeks on this schedule. Which O'Reilly Series race are you excited for next season? Let me know in the comments, alright? Last but definitely not least, the Craftsman Truck Series, which will feature the return of Ram trucks. And let's face it, guys, we have not seen this manufacturer since 2012. Now, can we please get to the flippin' schedule already? Jeez. As always, the first 2 races of the season do not move. You guys are not going to believe this, but the Craftsman Truck Series will have not 1, but 2 street races. How crazy is that? Now, the first one, it's pretty much complicated because the Truck Series will be coming to St. Petersburg, Florida for the first time ever. unbelievable. And this will be the very first time that NASCAR will race on this track. But here's something very important. They are not alone. They will be joining forces with the IndyCar series. Now, I gotta be honest with you guys. Were any of you surprised by that announcement, or what? Alright, let's keep going, shall we? Darlington moves to its March date. Rockingham moves back 2 weeks. Bristol does not move, and neither does Texas. But like I said earlier, Watkins Glen does to its May date. Dover Motor Speedway returns to the Craftsman Truck Series schedule for the first time in 6 years. Incredible. Charlotte, Nashville, and Michigan all do not move. The Truck Series will join the O'Reilly Series and the Cup Series at Naval Base Coronado. Lime Rock Park surprisingly moves to its July date after a very successful first edition earlier this year. IRP and Richmond do not move, except Richmond will now become the second to last race of the regular season. New Hampshire moves to its August date and will now become the regular season finale. The playoffs will now start at Bristol, which of course moves up a week. Kansas moves to its September date and will now become the second race of round 1. The Charlotte Motor Speedway Roval moves up a week and it will now close out that round. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. These truckers need to run the inaugural race on this track first, alright? Anyways, Phoenix moves to its October date and will now kick off round 2. Talladega and Martinsville both move up a week, with Martinsville, as always, closing out that round. And finally, the Truck Series Championship race will be held at Homestead Miami Speedway for the first time in 7 years. And one more thing, ladies and gentlemen, there's also a bunch of off weekends on this schedule. Which Craftsman Truck Series race are you guys most excited for next season? And what did you guys think of the 2026 NASCAR schedules I just covered for you guys? Tell me in the comments down below. Alright? Well guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And hey, if you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, comment, and of course, subscribe to my channel. And also, if you're new here, just click on that notification bell and never ever miss a single upload. Bye-bye, everybody. And until next time, as always, I'm out of here, y'all. Peace!